Hi everyone, this is Linda from Colorworks Designs and welcome back into month number 2 of Missouri Star Quilt Company's Block of the Month program called Starlight. This month we're essentially making the same block but in 2 different sizes. This is easy breezy piecing with half square triangles, and the larger block size has clever snowballed corners in the center to give it that illusion of a square in a square. So are you excited to get started? I know I am. Let's go! So just a reminder to keep your fabric color key handy, as well as your labels or post-it notes. So as we go through the fabrics in month number 2, you can label them right out of the kit. So let's see what we've got. We've got the beautiful background fabric here, about a 1/3 yard of that. And of course, this is fabric number A, so we're going to slap a label on it right there. And then we've got the beautiful brassica fabric, which is this blue cabbage I just love. This is fabric D, and that's about a 1/4 of a yard. We've got a 5-inch square of fabric E, which is the pink brassica or magenta brassica. And then we've got this beautiful Jupiter striped fabric here. This is about a 1/4 yard, and that's fabric F. And then last but not least, we have a new fabric here in month number 2. This is the blue paperweight. We've got 2 10-inch squares of that, and that is fabric I. Now that we've identified all our fabric cuts for month number 2, we're ready to start pre-cutting all of our units to make the blocks. So I thought I would just jump in here and give you a little tip about cutting smaller pieces. For fabric E, we have to cut 2 2-inch squares, and that's fine, but sometimes when you put your ruler to the very top of a fabric like so to cut the first 2-inch strip, your fabric can slip if it's a smaller piece of fabric like this 5-inch square is, or if you're cutting a very small piece, it can slip or slide underneath the ruler. So one of the things that I've found that helps is to actually put more of my ruler extending above the top and the bottom of the piece of fabric. That way, when I put a firm grip here on the ruler and one index finger onto where the fabric is placed, and then I go to cut this 2-inch strip, the fabric will not move or slide underneath the ruler. And of course, the same goes for now if I have to make 2 2-inch squares out of this strip. Again, I would extend my ruler top and bottom over the piece of fabric like so, and just make sure I'm lining up on one of the solid lines here, top and bottom, to cut a 2-inch square. And again, a firm grip on top of the ruler and whoosh, cut. That way the fabric does not slide underneath the ruler. So just jumping in with another tip on cutting here, a lot of times the pattern wants to maximize the amount of fabric that is given in each kit. And what I mean by that is you will cut a certain width of strip from your fabrics. For instance, on this fabric F fabric, we've cut it at 4 inches wide. And I will cut 2 4-inch squares from this. I'm then going to recut the strip down to 3.5 inches and cut 4 units from that, and then recut it again another 3 times. So you might want to review the cutting directions first before you jump in and cut, and also make a little cheat sheet for yourself like I've done here for this particular fabric F strip, so that I can keep myself cutting and recutting the correct sizes right in front of me. So here we go. We're going to take this fabric F strip, and I've already got it down to 4 inches wide, and I'm going to cut 2 4-inch squares from it. So I take my selvage off, and there is, I've got it doubled over, so that's 2 4-inch squares. And now I need to recut it down to 3.5 inches wide. So I'm simply just going to fold it over again and make sure my edges are lined up on either side. Recut the width of the strip down to 3.5 inches. And the pattern says I now need to get 4 3.5-inch squares from this. So I'm going to again cut 2 3.5 inches right there, and another 2 3.5-inch squares here. Now I need to recut the strip to 3 inches wide. So I do that, and the pattern says I need to cut 2 3-inch squares from that. So again, I line up my ruler on the end. I cut my 2 3-inch squares because I am doubled over here, and then I'm going to recut this again to 2.5 inches wide. One more slice, and again, I'm going to cut 1, 2, that's 2.5 inches, and again, I'll slice one more time, that's another 3, 4 2.5 inch squares. My last subcut is a 2-inch strip, so I make it a 2-inch strip now, and I'm going to cut two 2-inch squares from that. And there you go. I am done pre-cutting fabric F, and I used my little cheat sheet that I got from the cutting directions just to keep me running on the straight. So now that we've pre-cut, we're ready to start making half square triangles. And I just have another tip for you on that as well. You'll note that this block of the month program is heavy on making half square triangles. Each block includes a half square triangle. So one of the things that I like to do is I will read through the pattern and figure out what combination of fabrics I need to make my half square triangles out of, and then make notes on my pattern page. So you can see here on page 4 of month 2's pattern, I've made some notes for myself down here in the diagrams. And it says that I need to make a combination of fabric A, which is the black, and fabric D, and that I need 4 half square triangles when I'm done. The arrows indicate which way I will press my fabric towards. So these arrows are saying that I'm going to press towards fabric A when I get done making my half square triangles. So I need to make sure that I've got 2 fabric A's and 2 fabric D's put together to make 4 fabric AD half square triangles. I've also made a note in the margin here of the pattern what size they'll get squared down to. So for instance, these larger half square triangles will be squared down to 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Again, I've made notes on the other 2 diagrams here so I can set up all my combinations at once and take them over to my sewing machine and chain piece all the half square triangles. So for larger half square triangles, I'm going to do combination AD, and I need to make 4 of those. AF, I need to make 4 of those. And then finally, fabrics A and I will make 8 half square triangles. The smaller half square triangles, I'm going to start with fabrics A and D and make 8 of those. And those will get squared down to 2.5 inches. And there's more smaller half square triangles on the other page. This way I could swoop everything up and head over to my machine. And as you can see, I've already marked my line on the back of all my fabric A pieces, so I'm just going to put these right sides together and chain piece. For more information on making half square triangles and squaring them down, refer to month 1's tutorial. So now that we've made half square triangles and we've squared them all down, we're ready to start construction of the larger block for month 2, which is block C. And the first step to that is snowballing the center squares in that block. So you're going to need to grab 4 of your AI half square triangles, 2 2-inch fabric E squares and 2 2-inch fabric F squares. These are going to be the actual snowballed squares in the corner of the blocks. And that simply means that we're going to sew a 2-inch square down in the bottom right-hand corner here of the fabric AI half square triangle, and then we'll flip the tip of that sewn on square outward, and it will create the illusion of a square and a square when we get done putting the whole block together. So you're going to need to take your first fabric E 2-inch square, and you'll draw a line diagonally down the back side of the square on the wrong side using a water-soluble or Frixion pen. And you'll place that square in the bottom right-hand corner, just like so, of your fabric AI half square triangle. And then follow me over to the machine, and I'll give you a tip on how to sew that square on. So what I'm going to do is actually sew on this line, but I'm not going to sew directly on the line. What I'm going to do, and this is my tip, is I actually like to sew a little to the right side of this line or on the top of the line. And when I say a little, it's like a hair or a thread above the line. And why do I do that? Well, because when I get done sewing this fabric E square on, I'm going to flip the tip of this square over, and it should meet exactly the outer tip of the square over here. If I sew directly on the line, that thread in there on the line will take up seam allowance space and will not allow the tip of this square to flip over and meet the outer tip exactly. So by sewing just above the line, and I mean a hair above it, I am able to get that tip to flip over and meet exactly the outer edge. So on most occasions when you do snowballed corners like this, you're told to, of course, stitch on the line and then trim away everything a 1/4 inch beyond that line. I'm going to caution you not to do that first. What I want you to do first is actually take this over to your ironing board like I am here, flip the corner of the fabric over to meet the outer edge of your square, just like so. When you can meet the outer edge of your square here, give it a press down, and then we'll head back to the cutting board. Now that I've pressed my fabric E square over and I've ensured that the tip actually meets the outer edge of the fabric AI half square triangle, I can come back to my cutting board and cut away the excess fabric a 1/4 inch beyond the seam line to reduce the fabric bulk back there. This will make piecing your block go together so much nicer. So I'll cut that away and then I'll just flip that tip back out. Once I've done that, I go ahead and repeat this process with my remaining fabric E square and the 2 fabric F squares with my remaining 3 fabric AI half square triangles. Also, do take note of the pressing arrows that are all in the diagrams. So for instance, on your fabric AIF half square triangles where you've snowballed the fabric F square to the corner, make sure that you cut away the excess fabric here. And once you do that, go back to your ironing board and repress the seam in the opposite direction or towards the fabric I square so that the seams will nest nicely in the middle when you put the block together on the final steps. So now I'm ready to start constructing block C. And like most of the blocks in this program, we're going to put together 1/4 of the block first and then repeat this 3 times over and then rotate these quadrants to make the block. So this is the upper left-hand corner of block C. Pay close attention to the diagrams in the pattern to let you know how you are laying out your half square triangles, what way they are orientated, and also if you're using the AIF half square triangle down here or the AIE half square triangle, which is the pink down here. This first part of the quadrant is AIF, and we're going to start to put it together, and what you can see is just a simple 9 patch. 3 squares go together in 3 rows, and then I just press my seams. I've got my paper plate ready so I can put all my units on it and carry it over to my machine. So there you go. That is the upper left-hand quadrant of block C completed. I'll just give it a little measurement to make sure I'm headed on the right road with my 1/4 inch seam and piecing and pressing. And this is the benchmark measurement that's in the pattern. So that lets you know if you're headed on the right road with block construction. And this should measure 9.5 by 9.5 right now. And it does. If it didn't, I could give it a little trim or I could adjust my 1/4 inch seams on the other 3 quadrants. So now I'm ready to construct the other 3 units that go along in block C. Just like this, I'm going to copy this particular quadrant exactly, which means I can lay my pieces, the other 3 pieces for the other 3 quadrants right on top of here and take this over to my machine so I won't get mixed up about which piece goes where. So you can see I'm just laying the other 3 pieces to each of the other 3 quadrants right over this. And let's see, we need that there, and we need this there. And then I'm going to do one more with fabric F in the corner here. And then I've got my 2 fabric E's left over that were snowballed. And then I'm going to make 2 of those right there. So now I'm ready to take this all over to my machine, and I can put it up on my paper plate and piece away and make 3 complete new quadrants. And then I'll have 4 that go together to make block C. So there you go. That is my completed block C. It is gorgeous. I just need to take my paper plate now. And again, I just do this as a matter of habit. And I'm going to cut out that C letter just like so. And I'm going to pin it onto this block so that I remember that this is block C when I get ready for construction. Now I'm ready to go on and construct block D in exactly the same manner. So I'm ready to go on to constructing block D, which is the second block for month 2, and it goes together exactly in the same manner as block C. I've got my units laid out here for the upper left-hand quadrant of block D, and of course I'm going to sew these units together in a little 9 patch, check my benchmark measurement, and then go ahead and make a total of 4 of these units. As you can see for block D, there is no snowballed corners on this block. So I'm ready to go, and I'm going to finish off block D. So that is it for month number 2. I really enjoyed stitching alongside you guys. Join me for next month, month number 3, where we'll be making 3 different blocks, including the superstar of this quilt, which is this super large 24-inch rock star of a block that you see right behind me. So I'll see you next month, and until then, happy coloricious quilting, everybody.